Can you remember the 9/11 incident that happened a long time ago? And so many people died on that day. And still so many people are heartbroken about what happened on that day. Before I talk about that, Thiruvan Saranai, how are you doing, everyone? I hope you are doing well and good. You know, in the 9/11 incident, actually what happened was, a terrorist group called Al-Qaeda, and they hijacked 3 aeroplanes. But one plane, the pilot refused to drive it to the WTC, World Trade Center. Therefore, it landed before that, and all the people there, they were also dead. But somehow 2 planes were directly flown into the WTC of America. There were 2 buildings, but one building, 2 planes to the same building. One plane just hit the building, and while everything was on live, the second plane came and crashed into the World Trade Center. After that, the whole tower collapsed, and some people died. People even jumped off the building just to save their life, but there's no use of that because of the fire. Therefore, still America remembers that, or what happened. I mean, you tell me, in that 9/11 incident, were the 2 planes, were they took off to land on the WTC? Were the 2 planes took off to land on the WTC? Of course not. Maybe their journey was New York to Los Angeles or somehow. But what happened actually in the middle? On the way, the planes were hijacked by terrorists. The planes were hijacked and their destination was completely different from that. It went to the fire. Your mind is just like that. The moments you regret, the moments you are sad, the moments you have jealousy, the moments you're mental, that you are suffering from something. Every time that you have a mental pain, it's because your minds are hijacked. Your minds are hijacked by ignorance and attachment. Every time when you hear this sound, hearing is a mind. Minding of what happened is a mind. Right? Therefore, mind's job is to mind what happened in the outside world. Therefore, mind perceives the world through eyes, ears, tongue, and body. The mind perceives the world through all these 5 senses and the nose as well. Therefore, I don't know exactly what is behind me because I can't see that. But when I look at that, when the sight and the eye gets together, a mind arises. Without a mind, you don't know what happens in the world. If I ask you just right now, about what is happening in Japan right now. If you're in Japan, now you know what is happening. But if you're in another country, if you're somewhere else, then you don't know what is happening in Japan. Right? Therefore, you need a mind to perceive the world. Therefore, your world is your mind. Did you get that? The world that you know about is your mind. Because without a mind, there's no world. In my world, what is behind me is not in my world. Maybe it's in your world, but it's not in my world. Therefore, your world is your mind. But things actually, the mechanism of the mind, the perception of the mind, the perception of the world is diluted by ignorance and attachment. In this case, I'll just take attachment. Therefore, what you perceive, you aren't enough of what you just perceive. You need something else. You need something more. Therefore, you aren't happy with what you have today because of the attachment, because mind is hijacked by the terrorists called ignorance and attachment. You are attached to the world because of the ignorance. due to the ignorance, because of the wrong knowledge of the world. Because the mind thinks this world is so pleasurable. There are things in the world that are pleasurable. If I can go and get them, I'll have pleasure. Don't you have that? If I ask you to make a list of the things that you want, basically what you want, it's the list that you think that the things have happiness, that you can get the happiness from. Sometimes you think the happiness comes in a shape of a bottle. The happiness comes in a shape of a watch. The happiness comes in a shape of a car or a woman or a man. The happiness comes in that shape. Therefore, if I asked you, what is the shape of the happiness? You'd say it's like a woman, a car, a house, a mansion. But happiness doesn't come from anything. It is a creation in your mind. Just like everything that you perceive, it is just a creation inside your world. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, the things actually, the mind is diluted with attachment, hijacked with attachment. Therefore, you aren't enough with what you have. That's why the person who's walking to work is dreaming of an old Toyota. The person who has a Toyota is looking at a Tesla. But the person with a Tesla wants a Lamborghini. The life is always the next thing. Because mind is diluted. But the mind's job is to mind what is happening. That is the job of the mind. You are that. You are the mind. You are just born right now because of this sound. But things actually, if I do like this, you're like, oh. To snap your fingers, it should be like this. But the world doesn't have it. The world is perfect in the way it is. The mind is also perfect in the way it is. But the imperfection is happening due to the hijacking part by the attachment. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm telling is actually, if your mind is free from attachment, the moment you realize the world doesn't have what you want, if you have understood the world, if you have understood the truth, that is real freedom, because thereafter you don't have attachment. The moment you are free from attachment, you can accept the world in the way it is. But today, can you accept the world in the way it is? If you just get a text message saying that your child is kidnapped, or someone has broken into your house, or your wife or your husband is having an affair, can you accept the world in the way it is? I'm challenging you. Can you accept the world in the way it is? But there's a way and a path for that. For that, you have to get rid of attachment. The moment you understand that your happiness doesn't come from your child, that your happiness doesn't come from your relationships, you are free. You are totally free. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, strive for that freedom. Come and enlighten with us. There's a way, there's a path for that. And I want you to join with us to enlighten yourself. Therefore, keep that in your mind. I hope that would help you with all the struggles in life. Therefore, have a nice day. Thiruvan Sarnai.